Welcome to Indie Film Podcast. I'm Victoria.
And I'm Chuck. We're both indie filmmakers, and our goal with this podcast is to share our mistakes so that you can avoid them.
We are the joint owners of over 75 rejection letters from film festivals.
Follow us on our journey as we attempt to break into the national film scene or just incur more debt.
Everybody loves debt.
Yeah, that's the American way. It's the American dream. To have debt, I guess, less than assets. What are we going to talk about today? What's today's episode about?
Continuing the January theme of pre-production pitfalls, today's episode is discussing running behind on set.
We are currently running behind on recording podcast.
Well, at least we are speaking about what we know.
Yeah. And usually that's due to a lack of preparation, which, hey, that shit does happen.
It does. It does.
It does happen. But what can we do to fix that? The first question I have here is describe a time you ran behind on set. And how did that feel?
I think, yeah, it's a pretty common occurrence.
Yeah. Indie film sets are notoriously late.
They are. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it so much. Mm-hmm. I just feel bad. I think the worst example was I was filming a short called The Man Who Would Not Shake Hands. It was a Stephen King Dollar Baby.
Stephen King Dollar Baby.
And we had to film in a poker room, which we ended up, and the production designer, fantastic, custom made a poker table for us. But we were filming at a cigar bar in town. Mm-hmm. And we had the location for one day. This was a 40-page script where about half of the film takes place in this poker room. So we had about 20 pages to film.
Oof.
In one day.
Oh my gosh.
Which is dumb. That's dumb. Like, pre-production, I should have known better.
Yeah. And depending on your shot list, like a page an hour is aggressive.
I think the rule for indie films is typically you're gonna shoot 8 to 10 pages a day.
Yeah.
And if you're there, you're doing real solid. Mm-hmm. But also don't compare yourself to benchmarks, right?
No.
Just because that's...
But 8 to 10. Otherwise, you suck. And if you do that, you're great. But if you do 12, like, what the hell corners are you cutting, you weirdo?
Don't should all over yourself in the sense of, you have to hit this 8 to 10 page mark, and anything more than that means your shots are terrible, and anything less than that means you're slow and awful. Like, that's not it. That's not... But 8 to 10 is...
I want to prescribe advice to everybody. I realize that I haven't been prescribing enough advice as somebody that doesn't know what the hell they're doing. I feel like we were talking about the American dream and debt earlier, or I guess I was. So I think we should just be talking about what everybody else should do, and we should just espouse that advice, being, people with very, very limited IMDb pages that are known outside of the Idaho film community.
So you want us to be 90% of other indie film podcasters.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
What you should do on your indie film podcast is you should espouse a whole bunch of advice.
Yes.
And what you should do on your film set is you should shoot 8 to 10 pages a day.
Yes.
Anyway, so you were running behind on set. You were shooting how many pages in a day?
We were looking at 20 pages.
And how long did that take you?
That ended up being almost a 20-hour shoot day.
So about an hour a page.
About an hour a page.
There's no way to...
The only downside was that we made all these people show up at, I think crews started rolling in about 5 a.m.
Ooh.
And we weren't leaving until after midnight. Like, everything wasn't packed up until after midnight.
Oh, that sounds like a horrible, horrible day of filming.
And it wasn't just that. It was all these actors that are working their butts off all day long. It was having to go in and try to redo the entire shot list last minute, on site, just huddling with the rest of my crew and begging them for ideas. And we ended up going with, essentially, we got another camera out and had our gaffer run camera.
Oh, okay.
So we had 3 cameras running around all these gentlemen sitting at a poker table, and we set the cameras up, got a good shot, filmed some of the scene, some of the sequence, and then when the director called cut, we all rotated and I set a timer and said, all right, we all have 60 seconds to lock up a new shot. Find me a good shot. Let's keep shooting, and I'll come around and check your cameras. And that was it. And then we just did that for a couple of hours to get through most of the dialogue.
Oh my gosh.
It was not ideal.
Yeah.
It was definitely, I needed to plan better.
That's a nightmare. That's what happens though a lot of times when you're dealing with situations where you don't have access to the location.
Yeah.
You don't have adequate rehearsal space. You realize on set that the script doesn't quite jive how it's supposed to, and you have to make adjustments on the script on set.
And there was some miscommunication on how it was to be handled too. So that's another thing. Miscommunication causes a lot of delays, right? The director had this mindset of it playing out like a play, but the actors weren't necessarily informed that was exactly the way it was going to go.
Oh, so they weren't off book all the way.
Yeah, they thought it was going to be taken scene by scene, because the whole script would go, throughout the course of the night in this poker room, but then we're cutting to different flashbacks.
Okay.
So it makes sense that all these scenes would be filmed individually as an individual scene.
Yeah.
Whereas the director had it in mind, they would go all the way through all 20 pages from start to finish of the night itself.
Got it.
But I don't even think we made like a shooting script to give to people versus just the script.
Oh, nice.
So a shooting script that had none of those scenes in it would have made a lot of sense and probably would have been a beneficial tool. But that's certainly not something I thought about doing as the producer of the film. So
these are the lessons that you learn.
Yeah, now I know.
And I think that's something good to bring up too, is the shooting out of sequence, which you do.
Often.
Which films do a lot. But when you're starting out in indie filmmaking, figuring out that that's the best way to go, it would be great to shoot chronologically.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
But you'd then end up dealing with tons of continuity errors.
Oh, and not to mention the fact that the location situation would be awful. Could you imagine
so much
for
more
Stockton going back to the house?
Back to the school.
Over and over and over again? I mean...
Yeah, so did a feature film where we had to shoot inside the school environment, and obviously, not only we had a week in the school, but we only had one day with all the extras. So we had, luckily, we had some help from two awesome students, Paige and Joe, that were Boise State students that helped us corral all these extras. But we had 50 people on set, and it was a week in the film. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So all these people had to have different outfits on every day, and so they had to be able to change them all. And then on the day of the shoot, one of the teachers who was featured in a lot of the school scenes, his wife was wondering whether or not she was going to go into labor.
The actor's wife, not the character.
The actor's wife, yes. Yes. Thank you. So we had this teacher who was, the character was a teacher, and came through 5 different scenes. And we were going to just shoot Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and keep him there all day. But we had to just condense him to the beginning and then have 50 people all change their clothes over and over and over again throughout the day.
So that he could, experience the birth of his child, which I guess is important.
Yeah. I mean, it was his second kid. Oh. It's I don't know. We always joke, if that would have been in the 50s, he would have just been in the waiting room smoking a cigar anyway.
It's true, yeah.
We got him in. We got him out.
There you go.
And that was actually that was our other lead actress Jessica's idea to change that whole thing out, which was brilliant on her part. So we didn't even have the wherewithal in that moment of oh my God, this is pure panic. But as far as running behind on set, we've managed that one. The tricky ones, we did this web series called Chit Chat, which is on YouTube. If you Google Lower Gentry Studios Chit Chat, because Chit Chat is not a name that, when in hindsight, you type in Chit Chat into the search engine, it's going to come up with a million different things.
It's you know what? It doesn't. It's fine.
Yeah, but we did one of those a month for a year. And when we're doing that, it's some days you just have to change things. And so it cuts into script time, it cuts into rehearsal time. And I'm very proud of how the audio and the visual turned out on everything and everybody's performances.
Oh, yeah.
Considering like there were days when somebody walked in and we're like, we had to completely change the script. We had scripts that we just didn't shoot. Because, there was one where we had a local actor, Matt Melton, and Ellen Smith. We were going to shoot a totally different script.
Oh.
And Matt like had to get foot surgery, and he's like, I'll be fine. I'll be out of he was not out of his cast.
Oh.
And so there was no way for us to use the script that we had planned, but we still had Ellen on the line. And so like the day before, we're like, here's a totally different script, and you're going to be on the phone.
Good luck.
Talking to him, and we couldn't get any footage of him, so we had to have her just talking into the phone.
Yep.
And then had him come in later on, or I went to him and then got his phone conversation lines, and then inserted it into the footage. And yeah, that one was wild. And that one we ended up running way late on. And we didn't get all the shots that we wanted because it's like we had all these changes that happened at the last minute. So we were shot planning on set, and and Ellen was dealing with a brand new frigging script.
Yeah, that's very extenuating circumstances, but also kind of, let's be honest, kudos to being able to pump out a new script that fast too.
Yeah,
because that's also very impressive.
Good job, Elliot.
Yes,
good job.
It does also help that he's a fantastic writer. So.
Well, he does it all the time. So just don't tell him that in case he's listening, don't tell him that he's fantastic. He needs to keep striving for better.
Can't let him know. Can't let him know. Much like a 50s husband.
Yeah.
Don't let him know they're doing well.
Yeah. Exactly. So I guess we just kind of talked on this next question. What causes you to run behind on set, and how do you avoid it? Obviously, it's better. Ideal world, having the script, having rehearsed the script, having a shot list, getting into the location, having rehearsed the script, not needing to make that many changes to the script, not needing to make too many adjustments to the shot list. That's going to help.
Yeah.
But you're always going to run into stuff.
Oh, there's always going to be stuff.
Your shoot, they moved the hotel room. You went to a hotel room.
Oh, that's right. For what's the worst that could happen? I knew I already wasn't giving my actors much, if any, rehearsal time. So I was very set on, at least I know exactly what I'm shooting. I've got this shot listed to a T. I know exactly what I want it to look like in the edit. So if I have to make some changes in the shot list on the fly, I can, because I know exactly how I want the edit to look. So this is going to go smoothly. I'd gone to the hotel. I'd talked to them. They were very, very generous and very, very kind. This is definitely not slandering the Riverside, because they are amazing and amazing to work with, and super generous to work with so many people here in the film community in Idaho. So shameless plug for the Riverside Hotel if you're ever in Boise, Idaho. But the room that they had told me I would be shooting in, I had planned for down to the room number being in the script. And then they ended up putting us in a different room that, in most hotels, it's not weird that your entire room is just mirrored sometimes. Yeah. And it was one of the mirrored rooms. So suddenly my entire shot list was set up backwards. And based on the edit, I had always kind of planned for one character to always be aligned left and one character to always be aligned right, because there were a lot of split screen moments. Mm-hmm. And suddenly in a room that's completely mirrored and backwards, that really threw things off. Because
you have to have the other person on the opposite side of the screen, which changes how you shoot it in your house, because that was the other location.
That was the other location. The
and
problem
you can't just flip your house.
Well, and I didn't want to flip them because one of them, because of course it's one of those moments where nobody else notices this stuff, nobody else cares. But yes, this is the thought that went into it, was that one of them was the more reactive, emotional types. So she more represented one side of the brain. The other one was the more rational, logical type. She represented the other side of the brain. So like I wanted them to be aligned accordingly. And now suddenly maybe they can't be. And yeah.
That was a fun one.
That was fun. We made it work. We ran late on that one too, though.
Yeah, it was once the room started to happen, and didn't we have to change the script because you were saying the room number, and then we had to go in and ADR a different room number because we filmed in the hotel lobby prior to getting into the room, and then they said, "Oh, you're actually in this room." Yes,
so that was
it was a mile away because this hotel is enormous.
It's a large hotel. It's a very large hotel.
Everybody was hauling equipment a mile.
Which they were very kind. They let us use those little cart dolly
Oh yeah,
things.
the
that of course
the clothing rack things. So that was nice.
It was, but
and then we ran into stairs, even though there shouldn't have been.
There should not have been stairs. It was not a whole new floor. But I will say kudos to you because that whole recognition of getting the other audio, you were able to think about there on set and grab on set without having to go back and find time with the actor to do the ADR stuff later.
Oh,
and I
yeah,
thought that was actually really impressive and really helpful. But then because I had so many extra shots for that original thing at the front desk at the lobby, it was really easy to add that other audio in because there were enough shots, according to our, last episode about shot listing, because there were so many extra coverage shots that I had that felt superfluous and extraneous in the moment, actually did end up helping later on because I needed the coverage because suddenly I couldn't look at the front desk clerk's face when she was saying the room number because she wasn't.
Oh, she was saying a different room number.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to mention that at one of that. Pro tip, if you're doing location sound, always take time to get sound while other people are setting up.
Yeah.
It's really important because you end up using in the hotel room. I think I showed up like 30 minutes early and I just got stereo sound of the hotel so that we could use that as the ambience to help cover up some of the noise because we didn't have any control over the hotel lobby.
No.
And
there was a lot of noise in a hotel lobby, as you might imagine.
Mm-hmm. So being able to go in and get that and then making sure while you all were moving, I was trying to go in and get some sound bites from people.
Yeah.
Get different types of ambient, get hotel room ambience after the fact.
Yeah.
Room tone, they say room tone, but ambience is more
accurate.
Important. Yeah, more important than that. So what are some films that you can think of that did time management poorly?
Every film I've ever made.
Okay. What about big productions?
I'm honestly not. I don't dig too much into other than hearing about the whole. And I think you've got some. Oh yeah, you have the Island of Dr. Moreau. Do you want to talk about that?
Island of Dr. Moreau.
Yeah,
that one was infamously behind time.
That one was bad.
So really cool. I think they made a documentary about how bad the movie was run.
I hope
actually.
so. I hope so.
So I didn't have time to watch that before we started recording, but this was just one of those famous examples that I had heard of. It was filmed in '96. It had Marlon Brando and Val Kilmer in it. And they both had such huge egos that neither one would get out of their trailer until like the other one got out first, allegedly. So it was just kind of a disaster, like the management of the people. The director quit. Director Richard Stanley. He was overwhelmed. This is a note that I pulled from the internet, so it has to be true. So he was overwhelmed. He would skip meetings, hide in his house. He was eventually found living on a nearby farm and was smuggled back onto the set disguised as a dog man. If you're not familiar with Island of Dr. Moreau, it's like a horror story from back in the day where people were like genetically modifying animals into like people, like turning. It wasn't genetic modification. God, I read this book a long time ago, but it was this idea that if you were to like modify the bones of like animals so they could walk upright, they would slowly start to behave more and more like people, but they were still animals down deep.
The very weird way to look at anthropomorphization. Is that even?
Yeah, I think so.
That's
a
word
good word for it. But
okay.
Really cool book. The book is amazing. The movie is horrible. And I think it's because of the fact that it was just behind. And I think it was 6 weeks or something like that. 6 weeks, and it turned into like 6 months of shooting. So pretty nasty. So it happens all over the place. But I feel like communicating is super important.
Yeah.
Communicating your needs, making sure that you're tight with your crew so that if you're stuck, that's something that we've worked out at Lower Gentry. My brother, if he gets stuck on something, sometimes he'll be trying to figure out a shot. And it's like, if you have everything falling on one person's shoulders, then everything grinds to a halt. Casts start to lose interest. They start to do their own thing. Audio, location, sound department, like myself, might end up running around getting sound bites. Your camera person might not know what to do while the director's trying to problem solve something. But if you communicate those things really quickly, if you have pre-production meetings where everybody knows what's going on and you can easily say, this shot isn't working out, let's all put our heads together and figure something out then.
I will say, without the camera team that I had for The Man Who Would Not Shake Hands, absolutely wouldn't have been possible. They were all willing to go outside. I mean, every one of us just went outside. Of course, it's pouring down rain in the middle of June in Idaho, because why wouldn't it have been? But they were willing to sit out there in this pouring rain and just talk through it.
Yeah.
And it was because, they're amazing. And without having that comfort level, so I guess not like the egos that are in Dr. Moreau there, being able to put your ego aside and just saying, I'm struggling.
Which, there's not, fortunately with indie film stuff, usually you don't run into too many egos. No, normally, as soon as they don't break through to the top level, they end up just like whittling out and complaining about how awful the local community is at not supporting them specifically. But
thankfully, there's not much of that.
Yeah,
here. We've actually got a community here that's really excited about other people's films.
Yeah, and so trusting those people to be able to help you out if you're stuck in a jam. Like when we were, it was our lead actor's idea to have us just reorganize the entire shoot day because somebody was going to potentially have a baby. Like you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah,
and being able to communicate openly with everybody. Which we can talk about that on the next episode. Too many cooks or too few.
Oh,
we're gonna be talking about when do you stay in your lane, when do you not stay in your lane, and I feel like making sure that you know what you're supposed to do, but also be willing to help can help keep everybody on time and on task.
I think that's pretty perfect,
or maybe
and a
not,
great transition.
Because we don't know what the hell we're doing.
Yeah,
I mean,
I've never successfully done it myself, so
Yeah, but keep trying.
Yeah,
keep trying. Maybe someday you'll end your shoot day on time.
That'd
Who the
be
hell
so
knows?
Nice.
All right. Anything else you'd like to add?
I think that's it. Other than your goodbye spiel.
Should we have a succinct farewell to everybody?
I think that sounds wonderful.
Farewell.
Goodbye.